There are three types of comedy anime. The ones that make you laugh, the ones that make you die inside of cringe as you take a stick blender to your eyeballs wishing you never knew that shit existed, and finally the vast majority of them that are like a grey slob of nothingness. You know, shows that try to be funny but end up somewhere in between watching paint dry and getting your teeth pulled. But hey, shouting in pain is at least a reaction, so I guess that counts for something. Of course, most things in life don't just fit into one category or the other, instead they have elements of all three. But there exists a prophecy, one that foretold the coming of a show, an anime so powerful that it was like a god risen from the chaff. One that is not cringe or boring, but makes you laugh out loud in childlike glee. And that show is not... Yeah, sure, it has some really funny bits, but then it does a full 180, and instead of audible gust of air blown out of your nose in amusement, you just sit there staring at the screen wondering why that girl at the cafe didn't laugh at your Deku impression, and then you realize it was you all along. You were the cringe. Yes, humour is entirely subjective. I laugh at weird shit that you might find boring, or more likely alarming, and it's important to keep that in mind when discussing any form of comedy, but when you spend an entire episode talking about how this girl's sister is ready to commit genocide just so she can smell her dirty laundry, everyone at least should realize that there is some discrepancy going on. I'm convinced that anyone who's into the whole siscon or stepbro stuff has to be an only child. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that My Dear Friend Nokotan is great. It's just not always great. Watching the trailer for the show, I was expecting a return to the golden age of nonsensical comedy anime, also known as the early 2010s, that gave us the likes of Nichijou, Plastic Nesan, and Danshikokose, but fun fact, no. My Dear Friend Nokotan is about being the only normal person in a world where everyone else is at least some level of insane, as well as D&D related accessories. The show is split into skits, long and short, and sometimes really short, but the basic gist of it is that Koshi Torako, or Koshtan for short, is the normal person who actually sees the absurdity of what's going on, while the rest of them act like North Koreans whenever Kim Jong-un shows up on stage. If Mr. Clearly Not a Dictator was a cute girl deer hybrid called Shikanoko Noko, who seemingly possesses the ability to alter reality for comedic effect. I was initially going to say for maximum comedic effect, but then I remembered that episode 2 sucks donkey balls and scrapped that bit. Still, every skit has jokes, some better and some that are pretty stanky, but hey, there are stanky jokes in all of my videos, so you should have at least built a resistance by now. These range from destruction of public property, impersonating other anime characters, to breaking the fourth wall, among other things. But as a general rule of thumb, it's all a massive middle finger pointed at any semblance of normality, and mostly done at the expense of Koshtan. It's not outright bullying, but you can make of that what you will. What sets My Dear Friend Nokotan apart from other comedy anime is whereas in most shows pretending to be funny, the problem comes from the quality of the jokes. But here it's an issue of quantity. Returning to the trailer, it led most people, myself included, to expect a constant barrage of tomfoolery in a similar vein to something like Nichijou, but instead we got moments of ha-ha funny chaos beset on all sides by not a lot happening like the world's most boring siege. An issue that was further compounded by episode 6 being exactly what people were expecting. Short, sometimes only a few second long segments embodying the comedic potential of utter chaos to the maximum, and then it was back to slightly exaggerated school life. In essence, the show one-upped itself so hard that the rest of it fell significantly in comparison. But when the funnies do happen, they tend to get a chuckle out of me at least. Not always, but I did laugh during most episodes. Well, laugh is a strong word. It was more like that awkward snort you do when someone sends you a funny clip but you're out in public and your culture shuns any semblance of open merriment. You know the one. The humour in the show is what I'd call the random type. Yes, I know there are entire libraries written about the different genres of humour and how they all have a slightly different nuance from one another, but you aren't here for a lecture, and frankly, I don't care enough, so for now, a description shall suffice. There are references both obvious and obscure, which isn't exactly comedy as is, but when you get Kosh Torako being defeated in Mortal Kombat with a deer like a certain high school principal only for a very Souls-esque you deer text to appear on screen, or when she does the Bully McQuire dance in an effort to impress a D8 becomes comedy. Now, how many of you knew of the man, the myth, the legend that is Bully McQuire without googling? Who am I kidding? Most of my audience is mine age at least. The reference thing also extends to imitating the styles of other anime in a very bimbogami style. You know, like this scene that everyone has witnessed once or twice in their life without knowing where it's from. Well, now you do know. It's from Good Luck Girl or Bimbo Gamika. And now that I've been pointlessly rambling for long enough about things that may or may not be relevant to my dear friend Nokotan, I say pointlessly since, again, it's comedy, you need to decide for yourself if it's funny for you. We can move on to the last bit of this here review, which incidentally also concerns the comedy. The visual execution. I would talk about the music, but quite frankly, my knowledge on music extends to Monkey Play Drum, Brain Happy, so we shall move swiftly onwards into the animation department. And on that note, I say, monkey draw pretty picture, Brain Happy. Okay, for real now. Shikanoko looks pretty decent for the most part. But here's a catch. The show plays on its visuals a lot in tandem with the comedy, and the appearance is more often than not bent to a breaking point to emphasize a joke. There is tons of visual comedy everywhere, and while the transitions or the execution isn't always quite there, it still looks at least passable even at the worst of times. It's not going to be a Mona Lisa with a deer face, but it's also not Boruto running animation bad. Yes, the deer. Believe it or not, I have seen people complain about the appearance of the random deer that pop up left, right and center, almost as if this was an anime about stupid deer-related jokes. And an obviously out-of-place CGI deer sticking out like an anime fan in a public space normally frequented by functional members of society is funny, making it different from the terrible CGI bear in Golden Kamuy. This is budget constraints and terrible planning for the 4 of you who watched my favorite anime ever, and on the other hand, this is comedy. What's the difference? Yes, anyway, I was going to mention the dub, but quite frankly I couldn't stomach 10 seconds of it to formulate an opinion beyond my ears are bleeding now, so I'm just going to say don't. And now that I've talked shit for long enough to get this video over 8 minutes, so I can ruin everyone's day for my $2 of ad revenue, should you watch Shikanoko no Konoko Koshtantan? The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer still being yes, but only if you find it funny. If this isn't your kind of humor, the show really has nothing else to offer. It's funny and easy to get into, so give it a shot. Watch the first episode and see for yourself. You won't have wasted any more time than you would have anyway by scrolling TikTok for 20-ish minutes, and in the best case scenario, you now have a rarity in your hands. A comedy-oriented anime that is genuinely funny more often than not. Incidentally, if the ads did ruin your day, there will be a Patreon for your ad-free cheese viewing pleasure whenever Patreon deigns it to make it so that I can actually upload videos over there, so stay tuned for that. As for now, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and an especially big thanks to my channel members, RC Rally, Speedy Boy, and Mr. Shadow. If you would like to support me directly, channel membership is open, you get the content early as well as shoutouts and things. So do join, or not, up to you. For free supporting options, likes, comments, and shares are all a worthy sacrifice to the algorithm god. Subscribe for more anime goodness, and I promise to try and get the facecam working soon. Again, hoping. It's an issue with the recording software, that much I know. With this, I have been Cheese, and I'll catch you next time. Ta-ta for now.